I've been on the bench a long time, over 40 years of listening, weighing, and deciding. People think a courtroom is all rules and cold words, but most days it feels like a mirror. It shows who you really are when you can't buy your way out. My father taught me that a long time ago. He used to say, "Wow, Frank, you can fool a crowd, but you can't fool your conscience." And in my courtroom, you can't fool the record either. This case started like many do, a parking dispute, a complaint, a simple summons. But by the end, it felt like I was watching a man's whole life buckle under the weight of his own mouth. It was a Tuesday, October 17th, and the docket was heavy, case after case. People nervous, people tired, people hoping I'd see the human being behind the mistake. At 10:47 p.m. the night before, Providence Police had logged an incident report that looked small on paper. But paper lies. People don't. The clerk called it, case number 23CR1842. Defendant, Damian Voss, age 38. Charge, disorderly conduct, intimidation, and criminal mischief under state code, plus a municipal citation for illegally blocking a handicapped ramp. The location, Atwells Avenue, right outside a little grocery that closes at 11 p.m. Officer on scene, Officer Elena Marquez, badge number 417. Witness, a nurse named Leah Donnelly. The name Damian Voss rang a bell, not because I knew him, but because I'd heard his kind of story 1,000 times. Real estate investor, developer, entrepreneur. In other words, a man who treats rules like speed bumps. When he walked into my courtroom, I knew he wanted it to be his stage. He didn't shuffle in like most defendants. He strode, like the aisle belonged to him. His suit was slate gray and sharp, the kind of cut you see in magazine ads. A Tom Ford look without needing the label announced, but he did announce it anyway. The belt buckle was Gucci. The watch face flashed like a tiny spotlight. Rolex Daytona, white dial, clean as a lie. He had a leather folder tucked under his arm, and even that looked expensive. The kind of folder you buy when you want to look like you own the room. His hair was perfect, not I combed it perfect. More like someone paid money to make it perfect, and his cologne hit the air before he did. Strong, heavy, like he wanted the whole courtroom to smell him.
Buckle up, guys. Today we are going to watch how a simple parking dispute turned into a public unraveling. A seasoned judge opens with 4 decades on the bench, warning that courtrooms expose character. What begins as a routine case, case 23CR1842, quickly centers on a confident developer who strides in like he owns the air, dressed sharp, scrolling his phone, already signaling this won't be ordinary.
Behind him, his lawyer tried to keep up, a young man, nervous, carrying papers like a shield. And then I saw the small detail that told me everything. Damian had his phone in his hand, screen lit, thumb scrolling, like my court was a waiting room at a private club. I looked down at the file. The note said he arrived in a black Lamborghini Urus and parked it across the ramp. Not close to it, across it, blocking it like the ramp was an inconvenience designed just to annoy him. Then the victim, if you want to call her that, stood when her name was called. Leah Donnelly, age 33, a nurse at Rhode Island Hospital, 8 years on the night shift. She wore simple scrubs under a plain coat, no jewelry, no makeup that screamed for attention. Just tired eyes and a posture that looked like she'd been carrying other people's pain for too long. She held a worn tote bag close to her side, like it was armor. And when she spoke, her voice didn't shake the way fear does. It shook the way exhaustion does. "Yes, Your Honor," she said. "I'm here." I asked her to step forward. Her shoes were practical. Her hands were rough in a way that told me she washed them 100 times a shift. I'd seen that look before. People who serve. People who don't get applause, but they keep showing up anyway. The report said the incident began at 10:47 p.m. Leah had just finished a 12-hour shift and stopped at the grocery to grab milk and bread. She parked her small sedan and walked toward the entrance. At the same time, Damian Voss pulled up in the Lamborghini, music loud, windows tinted, headlights like knives. He parked right over the handicapped ramp. Leah didn't even know why it mattered until she saw the reason. A man in a wheelchair was trying to get up the curb. An older veteran named Raymond Ray Calder, age 62, wearing a faded Marine Corps cap and a jacket with a patch that read 1979-1999. 20 years. He had one leg. The chair was manual, no fancy motor. Ray was stuck because the ramp was blocked, and he was trying to do that thing proud people do. He was trying not to ask for help. Leah saw it and said, "Sir, are you okay?" She went over to help. And then she did what good people do without thinking. She walked to Damien's driver's side window and knocked lightly. The complaint said she spoke calmly. No yelling, no insults. "Excuse me," she said. "You're blocking the ramp. There's a wheelchair trying to get through." Damien looked at her like she was a stain. Then he laughed, right into her face. "What ramp?" he said. "I'm going to be 2 minutes." Ray, the veteran, called out from his chair. "Son, I just need the ramp. That's..."
The courtroom hears how the night unfolded on Atwell's Avenue. The defendant parks his Lamborghini across a handicapped ramp without hesitation. A nurse, exhausted after a 12-hour shift, notices a wheelchair-bound veteran struggling at the curb. She politely asks the driver to move. Instead of compliance, she's met with laughter and a cutting remark that reduces a decorated Marine to an inconvenience.
That's all. And Damien's answer, according to 3 witnesses, was, "Not my problem." Leah told me she tried again. She said, "Please, it's a safety issue." That's when Damien got out. Not quickly, slowly, like a movie villain. He adjusted his cufflinks. Then he looked right at Ray and said, "You fought for freedom, right? Then be free somewhere else." That line hit the courtroom like a slap. Leah's eyes watered when she repeated it. She tried to keep it together, but it hurt. You could see it. She wasn't just upset about the ramp. She was upset about what that line said about who Ray was to Damien. A thing, an obstacle. Ray tried to roll backward and go around, but the curb was too high. His chair tipped slightly. His hands scraped against the concrete. Blood, small but real, smeared on the wheel rim. Leah said she moved to steady the chair, and Damien stepped closer to her. "You touch my car, you'll regret it," he said. Leah told me she didn't touch it. She didn't have to. She just said, "I'm calling the police." Damien's reply, right there on the street at 10:49 p.m. was, "Call whoever you want. I own half this block." The report said when Officer Marquez arrived at 10:58 p.m., Damien was still there, still arguing, still loud, and the ramp was still blocked. Officer Marquez asked for his license. Damien refused at first, then he tossed it at her like she was a servant. Ray sat off to the side, trying to clean his bleeding hand with a napkin. Leah stood between Ray and Damien without even thinking about it, like a shield. And Damien, the man with the Lamborghini and the Rolex, looked at a uniformed officer with a badge and said, "Do you know who my father is?" That's always a bad sign. In my courtroom, I watched him as the clerk finished reading the charges. Damien didn't look at Leah. He didn't look at Ray. He looked at the ceiling like he was bored. I asked, "Mr. Voss, how do you plead?" His lawyer leaned in, whispering. Damien shrugged. "Not guilty," Damien said, loud and smug. "Obviously," I nodded. "Calm. I've learned that calm is power." "Mr. Voss," I said, "this court takes allegations of intimidation and blocking accessibility ramps very seriously."
Testimony details the escalation. The veteran's chair tips, his hand scrapes concrete, and blood marks the wheel. The nurse shields him while the defendant sneers, threatens, and boasts about owning half the block. When police arrive, he tosses his license and questions authority. In court, he pleads not guilty with visible arrogance, dismissing the seriousness of blocking accessibility.
Smirked. "Sure, because you've got nothing better to do." His lawyer's face went pale. Leah swallowed hard. Ray stared straight ahead, jaw tight, like he was trying not to explode. I asked Leah, "Ms. Donnelly, why did you stop to help Mr. Calder?" She blinked, surprised by the question. "Because he needed help," she said. "And because my son uses a walker sometimes. He's 7. He has a muscle condition. And when people block ramps, they don't just block a piece of concrete, they block a whole life." The room got quieter. That's the thing people forget. The law isn't about paperwork, it's about people. I looked at Damien again. Did you hear what she just said? He rolled his eyes. Touching story. And I felt something in my chest tighten. Not anger yet, more like disappointment, the kind you feel when someone chooses to be small on purpose. We moved into the evidence. Officer Marquez testified first. She was professional and direct. She stated the timestamps. 10:58 p.m. arrival, 11:03 p.m. request for ID repeated, 11:06 p.m. Damien stepped toward Leah in a threatening manner. She used the term menacing posture. She said he clenched his jaw and pointed his finger inches from Leah's face. Then she read from her body camera transcript. "Ma'am, you can't park here," she had told him, and Damien answered, "Watch me." Officer Marquez also testified that Damien called Ray a broken relic. Those were the words, broken relic, like Ray was junk. The defense tried to object, said it was inflammatory. I overruled. Words matter. Words are actions sometimes.
Officer Elena Marquez testifies with precision, citing timestamps and describing a menacing posture. Body camera transcripts replay the defiance. "Watch me." The term broken relic echoes through the room. A store manager confirms prior warnings for similar behavior. The defendant interrupts, challenges the judge, and treats the proceeding like entertainment rather than accountability.
Damien leaned back, arms crossed, like he was watching a bad TV show. Then we brought in the store manager, Mr. Nino Fazio, age 54. He said Damien had been warned before. 2 prior incidents. One on July 9th at 2:23 a.m. outside a different property Damien owned, where he blocked a fire lane during a private event. Another on September 2nd, where he yelled at a delivery driver for walking too slow. Damien laughed when that came up. "Yeah, because the guy was walking too slow," he said, like that proved something. I looked at him. "Mr. Voss, you will not interrupt witnesses in my courtroom." He lifted his chin. "Or what?" The air changed. You could feel the whole room lean forward. Some people in the gallery stopped breathing. His lawyer whispered, "Damien, please." Damien didn't even look at him. I said, "Or you will be held in contempt of court." He grinned. "Contempt? For talking? You judges love that word." I kept my voice level. "The court will maintain order. That is not optional." Damien waved one hand. "You're not the king. You're a public employee." That line hit like a punch. And right around here, let me throw a challenge at you. If you believe no one is above the law, I dare you to keep listening and tell me if you think I went too easy or too hard by the end. We continued. The prosecutor presented photos of the scene. The Lamborghini.
Photos of the blocked ramp and blood on the wheel rim are introduced. The defendant pivots, claiming the nurse scratched his car. She denies touching it, stating she steadied the veteran instead. Prior accessibility citations surface, establishing a pattern. When confronted, he shrugs them off as cheaper than redesigning properties, then throws out a smug challenge. "Sue me."
He parked across the ramp, the wheelchair tracks where Ray tried to maneuver, the scrape marks on the curb, the blood on the wheel rim, small streaks, but enough to make Leah cover her mouth when she saw them again. Then came the repair estimate. Damien's car had a scratch on the rear panel, not a dent, a scratch, the kind you can buff out. Damien claimed Leah did it. Leah's face went red. "I didn't touch his car," she said softly. Damien snapped, "You were all over the place. You were throwing yourself at the car like some hero." I held up my hand. "Mr. Voss." He looked at me like he wanted a fight. "You're gonna lecture me?" he said. "Look at her. She wants attention. People like her always do." Leah flinched. Ray's hands tightened on his chair wheels. I asked Leah, "Ms. Donnelly, did you touch the vehicle?" "No, Your Honor," she said. "I had my hands on Mr. Calder's chair. He almost tipped." Ray nodded. "She kept me from hitting the ground." Damien snorted. "That's your witness? Grandpa G.I. Joe?" The courtroom murmured. I heard a woman in the back whisper, "Oh my God." I banged the gavel once. Not hard, just enough. "Order." Damien leaned forward. "Judge, can we speed this up? I've got a closing on a property in Newport at 1 p.m. The prosecutor said, Your Honor, the state would like to introduce the defendant's prior citations for accessibility violations. Damien's lawyer,
The judge questions whether the defendant understands where he stands. He belittles the court as traffic court with a robe and mocks the judge personally. The silence grows heavier. A brief exchange about dignity and background lands flat against the sarcasm. Then the prosecution requests a recess, signaling that something far larger is about to enter the room.
Jumped up. Objection, we argued. I allowed limited introduction. Pattern matters. The clerk read 2 citations, one from May 14th, another from August 21st, both for blocking access points at properties Damien managed, both paid without contest. Damien shrugged. Tickets are cheaper than changing the layout, he said, like he was discussing lawn care. Leah whispered, almost to herself, That's awful. Damien heard her. He turned his head and smiled. You hear that, Judge? She's judging me. Maybe she should be up there. Then he looked at me again and said the words that became the title of this whole story. Sue me. He said it like a dare, like a joke, like I was some small man behind a desk who couldn't touch him. And in that second, I felt something settle in me. Not rage, clarity. I leaned forward. Mr. Voss, do you understand where you are? He laughed. Yeah, traffic court with a robe. That was his class insult, not even subtle. He wanted to shrink the whole system down to something beneath him. I said, This is a court of law, and you were in front of me because a veteran in a wheelchair and a nurse after a 12-hour shift could not move freely because of your choices. Damien tilted his head. Choices. I parked. Big deal. Then, like he couldn't help himself, he added, You probably take the bus, Judge. That's why you don't get it. People like me move cities. People like you just process forms. I heard a sharp inhale in the gallery. His lawyer put his head in his hands. I paused, let the silence sit. Mr. Voss, I said quietly, my father carried groceries in his hands when he came to this country. He worked so his son could sit on this bench and treat every person equally. Don't tell me what I get. Damien smirked.
A teenage witness's video surfaces, capturing the aftermath. After moving his car, the defendant mocks accessibility on camera and posts it online. Screenshots show Instagram stories, ridiculing both the veteran and the nurse. In court, the nurse steadies herself as humiliation becomes public record. The defendant claims free speech, smiling as if virality equals innocence.
Oh, the immigrant story. Cute. And then, the prosecutor asked for a recess to introduce new evidence. That's when things turned. Because while Damien was busy acting like he owned the world had been filming him. A teenage witness, Sophia Almeida, age 17, had been standing near the store entrance. She recorded the whole scene on her phone. She also recorded what Damien did after the police left. At 11:22 p.m., after Officer Marquez finally made Damien move his car, Damien didn't go home. He went inside the store and bought a bottle of sparkling water like it was a victory drink. Then he walked back outside, looked directly into Sophia's camera, and said, Tell your followers this, ramps are for losers. He said it smiling. Sophia uploaded a clip to TikTok at 11:47 p.m. By 2 a.m., it had 180,000 views. By the morning of court, it was over 1 million. And here's the part that makes your skin crawl. Damien didn't just get caught on someone else's video, he posted his own. The prosecutor handed me printed screenshots with authentication notes, Instagram story, verified account, username, Damien Voss Deals, blue check, timestamp, 12:03 a.m. The story showed Damien in the Lamborghini, laughing, music blasting. The camera panned to Ray in the background, struggling with the curb, and a caption across.
The atmosphere shifts when a federal agent stands and identifies himself. The FBI confirms an investigation into fraudulent real estate transactions and possible witness intimidation. Phone records reference making the nurse disappear from court. The defendant's confidence cracks. A sealed envelope signals pending federal charges, and the Rolex that once symbolized power now looks like a countdown.
Across the screen read, He fought for your freedom to cry about a ramp. Under it, another caption, "Sue me." Then another slide. Leah's face caught mid-sentence, looking tired and upset. Over that, Damien had typed, "Night shift drama queen." In my courtroom, Leah's knees looked like they might give out. She put a hand on the table to steady herself. Ray stared at the floor, and I watched that proud man's shoulders sink, not because he was weak, because he was humiliated, publicly, for existing. Damien saw the screenshots and grinned like he was proud. "Yeah," he said, "that's my account. So what? It's free speech." I looked at him. "Mr. Voss, do you think freedom of speech means freedom from consequences?" He shrugged. "In America? Yeah. And right here I need you to lean in because the next detail is what made this case explode beyond my courtroom. You're going to want to hear what was hidden behind his little sue me joke." The prosecutor cleared his throat. "Your Honor, there is an additional matter. The Providence Field Office of a federal agency contacted us this morning regarding the defendant." Damien's smile flickered. "Just a crack." I said, "What agency?" The prosecutor said, "The FBI." You could hear a pen drop. Damien sat up. That's not funny. It's not meant to be funny," the prosecutor said. Then a man in a dark suit stood from the back row. He hadn't been there earlier, or if he was, he blended in like smoke. Short hair, no expression. He stepped forward and showed credentials to the bailiff. "Special Agent Thomas Keene," he said. "Badge ID 6K19. Damien blinked hard. Agent Keene said,
Cornered, the defendant lashes out, accusing the judge of jealousy and bias against wealth. He refuses to sit, threatens lawsuits, and escalates into contempt. The nurse delivers a quiet plea for basic decency. The veteran speaks of service and humiliation. The bravado fades as hands begin to shake, and reality closes in.
"Your Honor, we are investigating a series of fraudulent real estate transactions connected to Mr. Voss's companies, Shell LLCs, forged tenant records, and federal wire transfers. We are also reviewing potential witness intimidation." Damien's lawyer stood up so fast his chair screeched. "Your Honor, I object." Agent Keene continued anyway, calm as ice. "We obtained a warrant for Mr. Voss's phone records and social media activity as part of an unrelated matter. In that process, we found communications referencing the victim in this case and language suggesting a desire to make her disappear from court." Leah's mouth opened in shock. "What?" Damien snapped. "That's not what I meant." Agent Keene looked at him. "Mr. Voss, you wrote it." Then he handed the prosecutor a sealed envelope and said, "There are pending federal charges. We will be taking him into custody after today's proceedings, pending coordination with the U.S. Attorney." Damien's face drained. The Rolex on his wrist suddenly looked like a shackle. And then Damien did the dumbest thing a man can do when the walls close in. He tried to swing his power at me. He stood up and pointed at me. "This is because you hate rich people," he said. "You're jealous. You sit up there and punish success. You're a little city judge who's never owned a building in his life." I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. I said, "Mr. Voss, sit down." He didn't. He said, "You can't do anything to me. I'll have my lawyers bury you. I'll sue you personally. I'll sue this whole court." "Sue me? No, I sue you." Then he leaned forward, eyes sharp, and said, "You're just an old man."
After a short recess, sentencing begins. The defense pleads stress and public stature. The prosecution seeks maximum penalties. Offered a final chance. The defendant suggests writing a check instead. The judge clarifies this is about respect, not donations. 30 days suspended, 1 year probation, and the maximum fine are announced. Yet the decision isn't finished.
"And in a robe, you're replaceable." There are moments in court where you realize the person in front of you doesn't just break rules, they break people. For sport. I glanced at Leah. She looked like she wanted to disappear. Ray's jaw trembled, the way it does when someone is holding back tears and rage at the same time. I said, "Mr. Voss, you are now in contempt of court." He laughed again, but it sounded thinner now. "Contempt, fine. Add it to the list." Agent Keene didn't move. He just watched. I asked Leah if she wanted to make a statement. She nodded, and her voice was small but steady. "Your Honor," she said, "I don't want money. I don't want fame. I just want my son to live in a world where a ramp is treated like a ramp. Not a joke. I'm tired. I work nights. I come home and I stretch my son's legs so he can walk without pain. And seeing that veteran, seeing him bleed, it broke something in me." Then Ray spoke. "Judge," he said, "I didn't come here to beg. I never begged in my life. I was in Desert Storm. I was in Fallujah as a contractor later. I've been shot at. I've been called names. But I never thought I'd roll up to a ramp in my own city and get told I'm a loser for needing it." He looked at Damien. "I hope you learn what it feels like to need help." Damien rolled his eyes again, but his hands were shaking now. He tried to hide it by adjusting his cuff. Agent Keene's presence was like a storm cloud. Damien could feel it. I called a short...
Community service becomes the centerpiece. 500 hours split between the Rhode Island Veterans Home and pediatric mobility programs at Rhode Island Hospital. A 6-month driving prohibition in Providence follows. The defendant protests, but the judge imposes 72 hours in custody for contempt. The federal agent calmly confirms transfer for processing after local detention.
Short recess, 10 minutes. I sat back in my chair and looked at the seal of the court behind me. I thought about my father. I thought about people who come into court scared because they don't have money. And I thought about men like Damien, who treat the law like a toy until it bites them. When we came back, I had a decision to make. This wasn't just about parking. This was about intimidation, humiliation, and a pattern of disrespect for the basic dignity of others. The prosecutor asked for the maximum on the municipal side, plus jail time for the criminal mischief and intimidation. The defense begged for leniency. He's a businessman. He's under stress. He's a public figure. Public figure. I almost laughed. I looked at Damien. "Mr. Voss, is there anything you want to say before I sentence you?" He stood again, slower this time. His voice tried to be strong, but it cracked at the edges. "Yeah," he said. "This is overblown. I can pay whatever fine. Let's be adults. You want me to donate to a ramp fund? Fine. But don't pretend this is about justice. This is about making a point." I nodded. "You're right about one thing. It is about making a point. And if you're still with me right now, you're part of something bigger than one story, like this video, and stay in this community with me, because we're going to keep shining a light on moments where respect matters more than money." I took a breath. "Mr. Voss," I said, "you have..."
An unexpected figure rises, Charles Voss, the defendant's father. He publicly supports the sentence, refusing to let his name shield misconduct. The statement lands harder than any ruling. As cuffs click around expensive wrists, the defendant's final attempt at pride falls flat. The nurse responds not with triumph, but with hope for change.
"Have shown no remorse. You mocked a veteran. You mocked a nurse. You mocked this court. You turned a moment of harm into entertainment, and you tried to use your wealth like a weapon." Damien swallowed. His lawyer whispered, "Please." I continued. "On the charge of disorderly conduct and intimidation, I am sentencing you to 30 days in the adult correctional institutions, suspended with 1-year probation." Damien started to exhale like he thought he'd won. I held up my hand. "You're not finished." His eyes widened. "On the municipal accessibility violation, I am imposing the maximum fine allowed, plus court costs. Total, $2,500. He scoffed. "That's pocket change." I looked at him. "Then you won't mind what comes next." I turned a page in the file. "As a condition of probation, you will complete 5..."
The courtroom empties, leaving a reflection on justice and balance. Wealth may purchase comfort, but not character. A ramp represents belonging, and blocking it sends a message. In this room, status dissolves under the law. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you in the next video.